Okay, grade 7, we are doing chapter 11. Okay, we are doing chapter 11, lesson 3. The lesson title is Misleading Graphs and Statistics. Okay, so what type of graphs do we use when we display data? That is the question we want to answer in this lesson. Which type of graph should I use for which kind of data? Okay, and then how do I know that a graph is misleading me? Because you should also know if people are trying to confuse you when you're looking at the data. You should also be saying this data has not been represented correctly, or you should come up with questions. When you look at the data, questions should start coming up and ask yourself, is this information truly represented correctly? So this is the purpose of this lesson. Okay, you're supposed to be able to make decisions, and that's what this lesson is preparing you for. Now, what is a graph? It is a picture representation of data. You have so much numbers, and then you want to make sure it is easier for you to read, easier for you to understand. So how do we represent data? We can use line graphs, we can use bar graphs, we can use tables. Okay, so this is ways of us arranging our information easily for you to be able to analyze quickly. Now, we also say it is a tool that helps us to analyze data easily, a tool that helps us to process the data so that we can make decisions quickly. It is sometimes used to influence decisions. The way you draw your graph, the way you represent your graph, can be used to make somebody want something they didn't want, or represent information incorrectly. Okay, so we want to teach you so that you know if somebody is trying to mislead you. This is why we are doing this lesson. Okay, now when we are dealing with data, we are dealing with statistics. Okay, so statistics is in the information you get from the data that helps you to make a decision. That is what statistics is. And we have said we use statistics to influence conclusions or make decisions. To make a conclusion is like to make a decision or to understand the data, like you justify what the data is representing. That's what to make a conclusion means. You look at the data and you say, oh, this girl has been coming to school every day, so she has to pass the math exam. Oh, this girl has been missing school a lot of days. Oh, so this means she will fail her math exam. So how did I know? Because I am looking at my data. This girl has not finished all her Aleph lessons. What does this mean? This girl might not pass her math exam. Like that. Okay? Now, which statistics do we use? In this lesson, we are going to use the measures of center. The statistics we are going to learn in this lesson they're called the measures of center. And what are the measures of center? Sometimes they're called measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency. So either you call them measures of center or measures of central tendency. And what are they? The mean, the mode, and the median. The mean can sometimes be referred to as the average. If the question asks you what's the average, they are asking you for the mean. So you should know. So another name for mean is average. The mode, this is the value that is repeated the most. I didn't say the highest number. I said the number that is repeated the most. Okay? Or the value with the highest frequency. Frequency means how many times do you show up. Okay? The median, this is the middle value after arranging the data from least to greatest. Least to greatest means ascending order. So when you see ascending order, you should know this means least to greatest. Now, I have explained more about the mean and how to find it, the median, how to find it, and the mode, okay? When you want to find the mean, you have to add all the numbers in your data set and divide by how many numbers you added, okay? And your mean can only be one answer. You can't have two means for the same data. Only one mean for one data. The median. You arrange your data in ascending order. You have to do this. Step 1, arrange your data from least to greatest. Then cross each end of your data until you get the value in the middle. A data set can only have one median. You can't have two medians. Only one number should be the median. Okay. In the mode, we have said it's the number that repeats the most. A data set can either have no mode, or it can have only one mode, or you can have more than one mode. So one data set can either be no mode, or you do another data set, you can find only one mode. And you can be given another data set that has more than one mode. Okay? Now let us look at examples of how to do the measures of center. This is your data set. And the question said, find the mean. That's what the question said. So you add all your numbers. Let's count how many numbers we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why we wrote this 7 here. This is a 9. Okay. Now, 7 numbers in my data set. I add all of them up. I got 37. I have to divide by how many numbers I added? 7. So, it depends with the question if they tell you to round it or not. So, I wrote it to the nearest hundredth. And I also wrote it to the nearest tenth. Okay. Depending with the question. And it can have units. Your measure of center can have units. Either you're measuring centimeters, or you're measuring inches, or you're measuring people. So there should be units, okay? Depending on your data. All right. Now, let us do mode. So here is an example of a mode, single mode. I have my data set. Which number is appearing the most? 2. There is 3 2s. Every other number is less than 3. So the mode here is 2 because it is the number that shows up the most. And because it is one number, we are calling it a single mode. Bimodal means you should have only 2 numbers. Only 2 numbers that repeat the most. So here is my data set. And you can see. And there are 2 modes. The modes are 3 and 7. See, this is the first 3. The second 3, and the third 3. And let's look at 7. The first 7, the second 7, and the third 7. Every other number is either 1 or 2 times 1. So the only numbers that repeat the most are 7 and 3. Each one of them repeats 3 times. So that is why we are saying they are bimodal. Because these are the numbers in the data that appear the most. Trimodal means you have 3 numbers that repeat the most. Tri, this means 3. Bi means 2. Single means 1. Okay? So, if I look at my data, I see 1 has repeated 3 times. I see 8 has repeated 3 times. I see 9 has repeated 3 times. So there. Trimodal, I have 3 modes because these are the numbers in the data that appear the most. You can also have no mode. If you look at this data, there is no number that appears the most. So that is why I wrote there is no mode because no number appears the most. None of these numbers appear the most. Okay? Now let's do the median. When you have the median, you first get your data. If you can see your data, it is not arranged. So you must arrange it from least to greatest. After 2 is 3, after 3 is 4, like that. And then you cross out 2 with 9, 3 with 7, 4 with 5. What number is left in the middle? 5, because it doesn't have a friend to cross. You cross 3 numbers on the right, 3 numbers on the left. The middle number is your median. Now, in example 2, I arranged my numbers from least to greatest. I crossed out 2 and 11, 3 and 9. If I can't cross, because then I won't have any number in the middle. That is why I was left with 2 numbers. I put them in this U, because I'm left with 2 numbers. What do you do with the 2 numbers? You add them, divide them by 2. And the answer is your median. And I wrote it here. The median is 5. I have shown you how to do the measures of center. Now let's go to the question and see why we are calling this a misleading graph. Notice in example 1, you have a graph. They are all talking of the same thing. But look, the bars over here are smaller than the bars over here. Why? Because here you're going by 4s. If you're going by 4s, you're making your distance smaller, yet it has a bigger value. The distance can be small, but it has a bigger value. Here, your distance is big, yet it has a smaller value. Here you're going by 2s. Here you're going by 4s. So now this data looks like this group is not making a lot of money compared to this one. This one looks like it's making more money compared to this one because your graphs are longer. Here your graphs are shorter, which is not true. This graph is making more money compared to this graph. Okay? Because 2 is less than 4. That's how I can tell. Okay? Now, it says here, the graph shows the same data. However, the graph differs in that graph A uses an interval of 4. That means it's going up by 4s. And graph B uses an interval of 2. That means it's going up by 2s. Which graph appears to show a sharper increase in price? This one appears to show because the graph is taller compared to this. Graph B makes it appear that the prices increased more rapidly. Okay? Even though the prices increase is the same. Okay? You went from 4 like that. The increase is the same in both graphs. So, which graph might the student council use to show that the ticket prices have risen? The increase is not significant. Why? You have to answer this question. So they might use graph A, okay? The scale used on the vertical axis on this graph makes the increase appear less significant, okay? That is the reason why. This shows a true picture as compared to this one. This one, people might think you're making more money, yet the same amount of money you're making on both. See, here you stopped at 8, and also here you stopped at 8. So this is a much better graph compared to this one. Now let's look at example A. You have 2 line graphs. The line graph shows a monthly profit of a company from October to March. Which graph suggests that the business is extremely profitable? Obviously, graph A shows you've made more money. Why? Your graph is going way up compared to this one. This one is going slowly over here. Yet, it is the same amount. The same amount. So, the line graph shows the monthly profit. What is the question? Which graph suggests that the business is extremely profitable? Graph A suggests because the lines are bigger. Is this valid conclusion? No, this is not a valid conclusion. Why? Because each graph shows the same amount in March. If you see, each graph shows the same amount in March. It's just that this one has a higher line. So graph B should be the better graph. Now let us go to C. Example 2. You have a table and you have data. An amusement park boasts that the average height of their roller coaster is 51 meters. That's what they are proud of, that we have the highest roller coaster of 51 meters. Explain how this might be misleading. Okay? Now, first, you get your data, you arrange it, you find the mean, the median, and the mode. You notice there is no mode because no number appears the most. You find the mean by adding all your numbers and you get, and divide by how many numbers you added, and you go to 170. And you find your median, which is 38. Now, you see, they can use this number, but that will be misleading because this is a way bigger number compared. The highest number here is 110. Here you're telling me I'm going to use 170. Well, if they want people to come, they will use the mean, which is not true. But they will say our highest roller coaster is 170 meters. Yes, according to their information, according to the mean, you saw 170. But there is no number here in the data that shows they have 170. Okay? So, the best information that they should use is the median. Why? In their data, it ranges. It is around 38. So, let's read what it says here. The average used by the park was the mean. This measure is much greater than most of the heights listed. See, it is way much bigger than any of these numbers here. So it is misleading to use this measure. It is wrong. Misleading means it is lying. That's what misleading means. So it is wrong for us to use 170. Okay? The more appropriate measure to describe the data is the median. The median will be the better value, which is closer to the height of the most of the coasters. Most of the heights are closer to 38. Okay? So that is how we've answered that. So do B and do guided practice number 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And do Aleph, DOK 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay?